In today's video, I'm going to be sharing multiple ways you can get rustic with your DIY home decor using some items you can upcycle and some Dollar Tree pieces. I feel like every time I come into Dollar Tree anymore, their little craftwood section is getting bigger, but these are still my favorite pieces that I can pick up from Dollar Tree. And for this piece of wood, we're going to be turning it into a bird cage. I know what you're thinking, people. The math ain't mathin'. Let me explain something to you. It doesn't make sense right now, okay? But with some Dollar Tree wired jute cord, it's gonna make a lot of sense, okay? It's gonna make a lot of sense. But we're also gonna need to, make some adjustments. And to do that, we're gonna need to bring on in a drill. Now, I'm a Ryobi girl. You guys use whatever drill you would like. And you're gonna need to find a drill bit, okay? Preferably one that is not hugely bigger than the cord that we're going to be feeding through the hole. We want it to fit snugly, okay? And then drill holes in the four corners, one in each corner. Don't need to get wild. If you want to put pegs on the bottom of this, like to create like a riser appeal, don't put them right in the corner. Put them off to the side of the peg, do your measurement, do your due diligence. I am going to be using this banister piece or foot. I don't really know what it is, but I own it. I rescued it. Okay. It's got some gunk. We got to get rid of that. I feel like it's wood putty or maybe some like wood glue where someone attempted to save it and reattach it to whatever it was actually supposed, to go on. But, I rescue random things because I have problems. Anyhow, I grabbed some sandpaper. That's how I solved this. And I sanded it down nice and flat. To attach the piece, I'm going to use some tight bond, quick and thick. Now, I'm not just going to use this because I want to create a pedestal base instead of just using the normal 4 feet on the end for like a riser, effect. I mean, you can do that too. It's fine. This is just how I chose to go about this. I had this thing that I needed to use because I just felt called to do it. Okay, that's what happens when you upcycle stuff. Anyhow, once I had it centered, I then tried to center on the top because I wanted to drill a nail straight down. And I have actually done this and completely missed the center without trying to measure because I rarely measure things. I usually wing them and I didn't want there to be too many holes in the top. But look at her. She turned out really good. This is 24 hours later. Okay, I let her dry for 24 hours. And I really liked the brown on the bottom other than it being shiny. So I grabbed some antique wax and my TDS 3-inch artist brush and went in heavy all over the piece, even on the brown shiny base, to be able to knock some of that off. And something that's really cool, I don't know if you guys know this about antique wax, but if you dry it with a heat gun and then you take your finger and it's thick, it comes off in chunks. I can't explain it to you, but you'll see the end effect. It's really cool looking and it just gives it like that older rusticy feel. You can go back over it with the brush like I am here to give it different depths in the stain. You just have to make sure that it's thick and you use that heat gun on there, and then, once it's cool, you can do it. Once the piece was mostly dry, because I got a little impatient, it was time to bring on in our wire cutters. This way we could cut down our jute cord wire to size so we can create that cage effect. Now, people, let me explain something to you. If I'm being completely transparent, this was not the easiest thing ever. And I, being the amazing content creator that I am, completely forgot to film me actually doing it. So here's me showing you after I did it. And then I'm going to give you a nice little view of the bottom here where I had to put some painter's tape around the edges to actually smoosh it through the holes. And this is a little piece I had in my stash. I must have got it from a estate sale or Goodwill or something. I don't know. It's really light. It's not heavy. It looks like it's metal, but it's not. It's probably resin. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, this will fit on the top. What I did on the very top to hold the pieces together is take a piece of twine and just loop them till there was like a thin little base at the top where all of, the twine pieces intersected. And now at the base, I'm cutting them off with the wire cutter. You could tie a knot in this, but I wanted to be able to switch it out. And to do that, there might be some issues here with this. Hot glue won't stick on forever if you don't want it to. So all you gotta do is put a little bit at the bottom, let it dry, and it will keep your twine in there. I know some of you guys are hot glue gun rebels, but you know, if I pry that stuff right off, you know, it's gonna come right off, just saying. However, we're wanting it to just have a little stopping here part for our twine. And then I'm going to use a little bit more hot glue at the top. So if I want to reuse this piece that I'm putting at the top again in a different project, or change out the way that I have the cage effect done, absolutely can do that by just tearing off the sections that I put the hot glue. And that's really the main portion of our bird cage. Fill it with whatever you would like. You can put a candle in here, florals, whatever you want to use to decorate it up. I decided to grab some more of that jute wired cord and some regular twine. This is just how I make little DIY bird nests. Some messy moss, because you know I'm gonna have the messy moss. It was such this stuff. You can see my workspace. I was crying many small craft tears as I had to clean it up. Anyhow, I just used the cord as like a main base to shove in and keep that circle on the nest, and then just kind of build around it, add more moss, add some twine, and then plopped it right on down in the center of our bird cage. I really appreciate how the antique wax muted that shiny look on our pedestal section, whatever that piece is actually called. If you wanted to seal over this piece, you could absolutely do that. I left it just as it is because I wanted the piece to look rustic. Grab one of Dollar Tree's bamboo rings for this rustic wall decor idea. This is super easy and a piece that I just had laying around. It even had some staples in there from I don't know what project that I made before using it. I'm going to take some antique Waverly wax and put a light layer of stain all over the piece. If you have a baby wipe, that's always easier, but I was out and have been for quite some time. I need to invest in grabbing some, and just wet a paper towel and sprayed a little bit of water all over the bamboo ring to spread out that antique wax easier. Next, you're going to want to grab some florals, and you can grab whatever florals you want. I'm going with a little bit rustic here, so I grabbed some sticks, looking stick pieces. I never know where my florals come from. I grabbed them from Dollar Tree, Walmart, at home store. I you know, if it's cheap, Ollie's. I love Ollie's for florals too. I know so many of you guys like Ollie's as well. You can get bundles at Ollie's for like 99 cents. So don't sleep on Ollie's if you got one local to you. When you're happy with the amount of florals that you've bundled together, and make sure that whatever you're bundling, it fits inside of the bamboo ring. I honestly recommend grabbing a bigger bamboo ring. This was the biggest one in Dollar Tree's 3-pack. I just had to cut down everything really small. And then I took some twine, wrapped it together. I found some lace I had in my stash, because as I resell things and go to estate sales and Goodwill and buy all those things, I have a lot of beautiful vintage lace. So I cut off a little section, tied it around, and then there is probably a better way, honestly, to attach this piece onto here. But I decided to use some hot glue, just attach the hook on the sides and put it on the wall. I think it turned out really, really good. If you can find these at Dollar Tree, I just recommend grabbing as many as you can. I hear in comments so many times that people can't find them, so whenever I see them, I'm grabbing them, okay? I'm absolutely grabbing them. I've made a bunch of different little DIYs using these pieces, and today I'm going to show you 2 different ways you can rustic this up and use for a tabletop decor piece. And neither way is going to require me to use the glass, so I'm just going to hoard that for later. And then I'm going to bust out some molds. Now, one of these is a redesign by Prima mold, and the other one is just some random mold that I got off Amazon. I'm going to be using Type-On's Quick and Thick to attach all of the pieces. Feel free to utilize whatever glue you have access to and gluing your projects together with whatever makes sense for you. I find that using either regular wood glue or the Quick and Thick works best for me, and this works really well on plastic. Just took my time putting down each piece into the mold and then creating a little design around the frame. If you're struggling to get your clay out of the mold, you might want to dust a little bit of cornstarch into that joint and then place your clay down in there. If I'm being 100% honest, the clay that I'm using is just some random clay. It's not my favorite clay, but even recently, my favorite clay, paper clay, every time I get it, it's a little bit harder than usual. So I might be trying something new soon. I did not have a brown paint that I liked, people, so I had to get creative and mix some things, okay? I used ink Waverly chalk paint for the base and then mix some of this brown oxidized together. I kind of got what I wanted here, but it took some finagling. And in reality, if you're going to paint plastic, use yourself some chalk paint or a multi-surface. To apply our paint, I'm going to be using my TDS 3-inch nylon artist brush and spraying a little bit of water on it. Really helps to spread the paint out really quick, and since the brush is so big, it gets your craft or your DIY painted really quickly. Take this idea and remix it with whatever works best for your home decor. There were some teeny tiny sections I couldn't get with the larger brush, so I just grabbed one of my TDS fan brushes and got in the little sections. I allowed this to dry and then grabbed some of my folk art crackle. You guys could absolutely just paint over your piece if you would like. You could use some glue. There's a multitude of ways that you can get a crackle effect. It's completely up to you. This is my favorite. Now I wanted to have a green color as the over color, as the color that went over top, the overlaid color. Did not have any green that I like. This was like the week of crafting that I had no paint colors that I actually wanted to use. So I was like mixing paints all week long. I feel like my hands are stained for like ever at this point. If you've never used crackle, keep in mind it is testy and you basically get one swipe. So you want to be careful to not overpaint. And then you want to bring on in your heat gun. Now I learned this trick from my friend Sammy over at Unicorn Dust Designs, that adding in a heat gun will help kind of stretch those cracks larger than just allowing them to dry naturally. And that's wild coming from me because normally I'm like, let it dry naturally. But this is absolutely something that I use a heat gun on almost every time. Now the cracks weren't huge in this, and that's because I did not put a lot of the crackle on. Just wanted some minimal crackles, and I feel like the heat gun helped make them a little bit bigger than they might have turned out if I would have let them dry naturally. When I was all done with that, I added some of Dixie Belle's gold gilding wax to have all those little details really pop. I personally feel like this idea would go so well with a multitude of different designs and colors. And people, if you can't afford the expensive clay molds, Amazon has little fondant molds and I picked them up and they work really well too. And people, if you don't want to leave it just as it is and you want to do something with the center, here's an idea for that. I'm just going to use some of my TDS Creative Decoupage tissue paper. This design is called Scripts. You could absolutely use whatever you would like and put in the center of your frame. Not even going to decoupage this down so I can remove it and change it out as I want to. Just making sure that it fits inside the frame. And then I'm going to grab some of my TDS Creative Dry Rub On Transfers. I'm often asked if these work on paper. I don't know why that is a question, but for anybody wondering, we're not only going to have it on paper, but this is tissue paper and it's even thinner. It's 18-pound paper. So anybody wondering if my rub-on transfers work on paper, they absolutely do. And they're super easy to use. You can take this idea and use the Dollar Tree transfers, whatever is in your budget. You do not have to use exactly what I'm using to be able to take the ideas that I'm giving you for inspiration and create something you love that works in your budget and for your home. For this rustic DIY idea, you can grab you some bed springs, or if you don't have any bed springs, you can also use some of Dollar Tree's jute cord. This stuff is easy to manipulate and you can create that bed spring effect with this stuff. And if you don't like that idea, you can always buy some gauge wire off of Amazon. This stuff is really easy to manipulate as well to be able to create that bed spring spiral effect. But since I have some bed springs, because I usually sell them over on Whatnot and I'm asked often, what can you do with them? I'm going to give you guys a couple ideas on how to use these and pop them in your home for some cute rustic decor ideas. Obviously, create them using spring, summer, whatever, Christmas, Halloween, doesn't matter, whatever kind of ideas you would like. First, we're going to create a little tag with some junk journal pieces and pop one here. We're just going to hang it off on one of the springs, pop a little hole in here. I'm not doing anything else to it. It's really just an accent. And don't even ask me what that tool is. I don't know. I don't know. I purchased it at some point. I don't remember when. I just recently found it and I'm like, oh, this is great. And I have yet to Google what it really does. I just seen it, thought I needed it, and now I own it. And I'm showing it to you because now you might want it and I can't help you buy it. I know, people, I'm sorry, don't hate me. I finished up our piece adding some of Dollar Tree's Messy Moss, one of the little bird houses from Dollar Tree, and some little book pages that I had rolled up and tied together, and think this is so darling. And people, switch them out. Okay, switch them out. You don't have to glue anything down into your bed spring. If you have bed springs or you made the faux bed springs, now here I'm taking some of Dollar Tree's greenery bits, shoving down into this joint, and then I went and got me this cute little egg piece that I got at an estate sale and shoved it in here, and look how amazing that is. There really is no limit to what you can shove on top of the greenery or moss that you have on your bed spring. I'm taking a little vintage doily in here, and then I have a different type of vintage egg that I'm just going to put in the center. Even though it's still an egg, it gives it a whole different vibe than the last idea. Grab you some books for this rustic DIY decor idea. Now, 2 of these are from Dollar Tree, and I haven't been able to find any large hardback books recently, so I thrifted this giant book at Goodwill. But by all means, remix this idea and take it and use it however you would like to create whatever for your home and your decor style. I'm going to remove all of the cases or the coverings on the books, however you want to say it, and then I'm going to start just by piling them together. I've been seeing these beautiful stand-up decor pieces recently, and I've created a lot of book decor in my day, but I haven't really done a stand-up piece like this one. So first I'm going to start off by taking some of my Type Bond Quick and Thick and putting a nice juicy layer between each set of books. Once I was done with that, I didn't dare continue crafting. I put these off to the side and then I let them dry for 24 hours. Once they were dry, I grabbed some of my Waverly white chalk paints and gave this a nice coat. I personally like to use this as a base a lot of times on books, and I didn't glue anything down for this particular design. A lot of times I will glue all my pages down, but this design I didn't want to do that. I did go inside of the book pages, make sure everything was coated nicely. And since I'm going for rustic, I went through my TDS Creative Decoupage tissue paper designs that I had in bits in my stash, my little stash box, and found 2 designs that I thought complemented each other well that were on different decoupage tissue papers. So I just cut them down to size and then took a minute off camera figuring out how I wanted to do this spine. And I settled on some vintage lace. I know the color doesn't exactly match, okay? But I promise we're going to change that, okay? first we're going to need to trim this down because I wanted to make sure I had all the pieces completely cut down to size once I had the paint and everything was dry, so we could just get to crafting, because that's my favorite part. All of this, you know, prep work is a pain. And if you have never cut vintage lace and tried to make it look frayed, you're just not living. I'm just kidding. In the event you have and you notice that the lace just gets ripped all to hell in whatever way, a easy little trick is to pull and snip. Pull and snip, and it will still look frayed and not give you that straight edge. You know what I'm saying? It gives you that vintage, you know, edge with still holding its straight. Just pull, snip, you got it. Next up, we're gonna need to grab some gloves, or at least one. We're gonna need to at least MJ it here on just this one project. Depending on your age, you may or may not get that joke, and that's I can live with that. Anyhow, I'm just gonna take some black chalk paint and put a little bit on this lace, and I'm just putting it on parchment paper. You could use a paper plate, whatever, you know what I'm saying, not a big deal. And give a little spritzy spritz, and then smooshy smoosh in your one-handed MJ glove. You know what I'm talking about. Just squish it, okay? Squish it. It's gonna take literally no time at all. I didn't even speed this up so y'all could see just how quick and easy that was. You don't need fabric paint, just a little bit of chalk paint. That's it. Then sit it to the side and let it dry while you go about your life. I'm painting the spine green because I want this to come through the lace, and I feel like it matches our decoupage tissue papers. And I went on the sides, so this way as it wraps around the sides, I made sure that it, you know, was all uniform, and it took care of the details at the top and the bottom as well. For our application, I'm going to use some good old Mod Podge. Feel free to use whatever you would like, and definitely make sure your book is completely dry before you go about doing that from your paint colors, okay? Now I'm trimming our decoupage tissue papers down to size. There are a ton of ways you could do this. I personally like to fray around the edges of my book, and you can do that just with some water on a paintbrush, or you can live a little bit dangerously like I do. I decoupage a lot, so don't do this if you are terrified you're going to rip your paper, okay? I'm spraying the paper itself, and then I'm just holding it in place and pulling it, okay? If you are not confident in your skill, do not do this. I am not responsible for you ruining your paper if you only got one sheet. Once I was completely done that, I then mixed some more paint colors together to get like a tannish color that matched our tissue papers and went all over the outside of the book, not where we're actually decoupaging. I'm leaving that the base color that we used. And then I'm going to spread some of that Mod Podge on using one of my TDS Creative Artist brushes in the fan style. I'm just doing half of the book at a time. The bottom section first, and then the top section. I do take a little bit of water and spray the decoupage tissue paper. You do not have to do this. This paper or any tissue paper, I've used all kinds of tissue papers, even the ones from Dollar Tree, they will absolutely apply dry. This is just something that I like to do, and I feel it helps adhere a little bit better to our piece. And I do want it to be rustic, so I am not worried about wrinkles, and I'm just applying this with my finger. You're welcome to use cling wrap, a brayer. I often use a dry kitchen sponge, whatever you would like to press down your decoupage tissue paper. If you want to take this idea and use a napkin, regular craft paper, newspaper, fabric, whatever you would like. Now around the edges, I just come in with my finger and I will swoop those frayed edges right underneath the book. And prior to using your finger to press down the edges, make sure you take your fan brush and go around the edges, squeezing in a little bit of extra Mod Podge for a great end attachment. To apply our vintage lace, there's a couple different things you can use, but I had some fabric Mod Podge on hand. So I'm just going to take it's a little dry, so keep in mind if you do use this, your fabric, your lace will be a little dried from the paint, okay? And that's normal. Just, you know, crunch it out, you know, like them bones in the morning, stretch it out, okay? Stretch some cracks out, it'll be fine. Apply a nice little layer of that fabric Mod Podge down, and then just tappity tap, tap, tap it right into place. And continue the same process until you have it applied. Now, I will tell you that this stuff is super sticky, and you will see how I start holding the book. I am keeping my fingers off of the edges because I accidentally tore a section where her hat was on the side because my hands were so sticky from this fabric Mod Podge. As it was drying on my hands, it dried enough that the paper peeled off when I touched it. I was so sad, but I fixed it and it was fine. I allowed this to dry for about 3 or 4 hours, and I thought it was beautiful just as it was, but we're going to add some accents on here. Just a little bit. We're not going to go too wild because I really, for a change, less was more for me with this piece. Now, I am going to tell you that I'm letting this dry for 48 hours, and I don't have enough time because I'm literally creating this video to be published in like 3 hours. So I don't have enough time to actually seal this, but I will be sealing over this piece, okay? I'm just allowing it to dry for 48 hours before I do so. Also taking some antique Waverly wax and dry dusting around the edges with my finger to give it that rustic look. Taking a little mold from IOD, painting it the same green color that we put inside of the lace, adding that quick and thick to the back, applying it down, and then grabbing some of my Dixie Belle's gold gilding wax to add extra accents onto this. You could absolutely do this with whatever color or leave that out completely, but I love how it created a little something extra on the designs with the lace and the IOD mold. I added a bit of twine onto the bottom, so this way our bookends didn't go flying open since I didn't glue anything down. Have to say, this is one of my favorite pieces I've ever made. If you're looking for more Dollar Tree inspiration, check out this video right here. And if you're interested in any of the TDS creative products you've seen used in this video, check out the DIYstruggle.com. As always, people, thank y'all so much for hanging out with me today. Until next time.